Hey everybody, it's Carm here. I'm back on a Monday afternoon. Back on just after a couple days. I did a thread response to the black album covers, which looks like a lot of people got in on that one. And just saw one this morning, another one that I wanted to respond to on your top keyboardists. I'd seen James Griffiths had done a video. I think he started with that one. Started that thread, and then I seen Jeff Calico Silver did a response, and then much to my very pleasant surprise, seen my dear old friend Shannon D came on and did her own response. So it was wonderful. She hadn't been on in quite some time, I think a few years. So welcome back, Shannon. See this? One of the original people really that inspired me to do my own videos back probably been close to 7 years now. So coming full circle again with her responding to this, and prompted me to come forth and do my own here. And I was thinking of it too. It's a bit of a challenge, being that I'd say at least 3/4 of my collection is keyboard based. A lot of synthesizer, mixed keyboards, solo piano, and has been for really 30 years. I mean, it's really been the main focus of just what I've been into all this time. And I purposely am limiting myself here, trying to avoid some of the obvious names, like Vangelis, Terry Riley, a lot of jazz people that I love, and certain classical. And for the most part, these are synthesizer based mixed keyboards, but I wanted to be synthesizers that were more pointedly song structured, traditional song structured, melodic and harmonic, more straightforward in that way, not so much atmospheric and experimental, at least not focused on that. So and I'll probably do follow-ups at some point, of various other players, and with keyboards and synthesizers I could go on for many videos. But I'll just start right in with just a few, really the first things I grabbed, and some artists that'll prompt me to getting back into some of their works that I haven't been into for a while. This was mentioned in a couple of the responses, which I won't give away who said what in case you haven't seen their videos. But yes, Tony Banks, of course best known for being in Genesis. I wanted to show this one in particular since it might be a little lesser known, if you just know him from the group. He does his own orchestral and chamber works, I think, for quite some time, and he does play on this piano and Celesta, the Naxos label at Tony Banks 5. But from the time I heard his intro to Watch Where the Skies in the summer of 1990 off of Genesis Live, that organ and mellotron mixture, I mean, it was just galvanizing, especially when you're 14 years old and you're just starting to broaden your horizons in general musically. That was as good as anything else. And of course, Tony, I mean, wonderful player. Very distinctive orchestral approach, but I never found him to be too grandiose. Unlike they say that about a lot of what's known as progressive rock. It tends to get a little over the top. I feel though he always had a great sense of economy in his playing, as well as using the various keyboards coloristically, and showing a lot of influences under the surface without making too much overt reference. Maybe classical at times, but just one of a kind. And I would recommend checking out his orchestral stuff as well. I can't say enough things about him. Staying in relative rock or progressive here. Okay, I could show better examples, but this cover is just too fun. This man very much wants his chocolate. He's going to get it. This is Brand X Soho, taken from the album Product. So basically some singles here. Robin Lumley, keyboardist. Now I'd heard him maybe a half a year after hearing Genesis live. Moroccan Roll, specifically the song Disco Suicide, his playing on there very much struck me. The way he went pretty evenly between acoustic and electric pianos and synthesizer, and his own approach, you really couldn't tell. It sounded like there were, again, a lot of influences there, but not really making overt reference to anyone in particular. Yeah, just very much his own approach, and I think the group had a lot of humor to it, as well as just great playing, and you could kind of hear that slightly, subtly in his playing. But yeah, he's another one I've enjoyed over the years, and still been meaning to look into it to see if he has more solo stuff out. But yeah, Robin Lumley, Brand X. This is another favorite of many years, going back to high school. A few of these are Don Harris, Abacus Moon. I think I did a video on him a few years back. Another player, multiple keyboards, piano and synthesizer, utilizing at that time, the most advanced of like the synclavier and computer interface and all that. But his focus was very much melodic, very much telling a story. More traditional song structures. And at times this could almost be instrumental pop music. Maybe not quite top 40, but it does have that feel of, being very concise and telling the story simply, but just beautiful memories, but melodies, and the way in which she used various synthesizer timbres, really like a painter, just very deliberate use of, it's like every brush stroke and every color is very, very deliberate and very evocative in the music, and yeah, beautiful stuff. I think he's still around. I think he did a solo piano album maybe a few years back. Fred Simon, someone who I got introduced to from seeing Oregon live about 18 years ago. He opened for them on playing mostly solo piano, but in general he plays a mixture of keyboards, piano and synthesizers. Another one, he uses the synthesizer very economically, doesn't overdo it, but yeah, just a really nice balance of melody and atmosphere. Jazzier than some of the other players I'm showing here, but yeah, and every song on here is beautiful, wonderful compositions, and his playing throughout. It's on Windham Hill. Yeah, usually, always. Yeah, just a wonderful, wonderful player. Very much recommended. Yeah, it's just very, very original. This one, have Gary to thank turning me on to this particular artist. Yoshio Suzuki, Morning Picture. Japanese bass player. I think on most of the albums he's on, he plays bass, but on here he's on piano and synthesizers and a little bit of bass. Another one who uses, very expressive in his use of synthesizer, not too overdone, but a real nice even mixture of acoustic and electric. A little jazzier, but also gets into pretty, pretty atmospheric territory. Yeah, I was totally unfamiliar with him before Gary showed him, although I'd heard his music on other places, not knowing who it was. It's fairly rare, but I think this might be up on YouTube. But very beautiful, very warm. It's kind of similar to the Don Harris. It's just very, again, tells a story with, just very kind of simple and straightforward. But yeah, well worth getting into. Yoshio Suzuki, Morning Picture, GVC, 1984. This came out. Now this is one of my all-time favorite artists, going back, another one going back to high school. Tim Story, Beguiled. It's from Hearts of Space from 1991. Another artist who, to me, is very much like a painter in the way that he plays. Very minimal, very precise in the way he chooses, not only the way he constructs music, but every sound he uses, you know, every chord. It's very deliberate. It sounds very painstaking, but it's just perfect. It's like it all sounds like it's just right. And from even his earliest music from the late 70s, when he was a very young man, you know, just doing, you know, it's like his style was pretty much formed then, maybe even a little more minimal and atmospheric. But he became more melodic as time went on over the years, maybe more impressionistic and romantic at times. And now he's doing stuff that's more atmospheric. But just, yeah, I like just about anything of his. You know, anything is a good example, especially during these years, the 80s and into the 90s, if you want to hear his more melodic approach. And again, just telling that story, just yeah, very compellingly. Yeah, Tim's story, Beguiled. Yeah, there's a few examples I get others. He's someone I'd have to do a, you know, long overdue that I need to do a video on, among others. Suzanne Gianni, Neverland, the Goodwill edition. I also have the cassette and the LP. It's the first one I came out here. Yeah, the format. Now she's somebody who started off with purely with synthesizers, at least as far as recording, and then got more into mixed keyboards, and now lately she's back into analog synthesizers, a very experimental, like with the Buchla system. Although during this time, in particular, the 80s and 90s, mixture of piano and synthesizers. Another one, thinking in terms of color, you know, I think a lot of these artists have that in common. Very melodic, very romantic, but also very interesting. Just interesting the way she constructs her music, with kind of building on layers with the synthesizer and piano. Maybe I think of it almost like architecturally, with that kind of precision. But again, it's very, very emotional, very beautiful. Yeah, anything of hers on private music. This and earlier, I'd say. This is from '87, I think. '88. Yeah, '88 on. So yeah, Neverland. But, yeah, it's beautiful stuff here. I got a few more. Oh, here's an artist that has collaborated quite a bit with Tim Story over the years. Rodelius, Hans Akim Rodelius. Many years, one half of Cluster, and I believe nowadays he's 1/3 of Cluster. Cluster spelled with a Q. But he's done many solo albums over the years. His self-portrait series, which I think he started back in the 70s, which was meant as these kind of musical diaries, you know, solo keyboard, very raw, experimental, but also quite melodic, you know, very dreamy. I believe he's entirely self-taught, and he's another one who's mixed piano and keyboards. I'd say this one's probably a little more abstract, for lack of a better term, probably like the cover. But he's another one who's plays very beautifully. You know, a wonderful sense of space. Yeah, the way he uses silence is really, really profound, and you know, kind of long, drawn-out tones. But you know, it almost sounds like he's classically trained, but I think that's a lot of his own. Just, you know, it's a very concentrated kind of playing to kind of get where he's been. But yeah, he's another one who's become one of my very favorite people over the years, and still going strong. 85 or 86 years old now. In fact, I believe he has a book out. I think it might be his biography or autobiography. I have to look into that. But yeah, he's still around. So, Rodelius. The Introspection, Self-Portrait 8. So, there's quite a few of these out. Another favorite, a mutual favorite of Gary and I, many years. Harold Budd. perhaps. I think this one actually is a solo piano, solo acoustic piano, but he's another one who's done a lot with synthesizer and piano mixture. Very minimal, very atmospheric. I first became aware of him with Brian Eno, the kind of early ambient series, but very much his own approach to what could be called ambient or experimental. He somehow mixes, ambient, experimental, romantic, and progressive. He does it all at once, but yet does it so minimally, and tells more, tells a greater and deeper story with 2 or 3 notes than most people have heard. And he's another one. I believe he's still around in his 80s now. But yeah, Harold Budd. I'm thinking of other titles, but Lovely Thunder is another one. White Arcades. There's quite a few. But yeah, this is an example of a solo piano. But yeah, just gorgeous. And you know him right away when you hear his music. I mean, it's just 2 or 3 notes, and it's Harold. One of the greats. And finally here, I think I just showed him in a previous video. Oystein Savag, Close Your Eyes and See. I believe this was his American debut, and I'd first heard of him back around 91 or 92, featured on Musical Starstreams. In fact, they played him on WNUA in general quite a bit then. Yeah, Norwegian keyboardist. Another player, draws from so many different sources, different styles, different genres, makes something totally his own. Even the keyboard sounds, which were even familiar at that time, in the late 80s, early 90s, he just had his own way of phrasing, kind of bending and phrasing the melodies and the pitches, just very much his own style. It got jazzier as time went on, and you could still kind of hear it on here, but again, the atmospheric and the progressive, all of that was pretty pretty evident from the very beginning here. It's like on Music West from 1991. But yeah, if you like those mixture of styles, definitely, he's a wonderful one. And you have to see what he's up to lately. I haven't seen over the last couple of years. But yeah, Oystein Savag. So yeah, just wanted to come on in and do a quick response. Again, I grabbed these, kind of quick, maybe even not quite hastily, but just yeah, I just wanted to come on and respond to this. And again, I'll probably do some kind of follow up. Again, maybe showing more obvious people and maybe some favorite jazz people, and go into other areas. Again, I'd resisted for such a long time focusing on keyboards, since that's mostly what I have in my collection. But yeah, I look forward to seeing other people do responses, and yeah, just seeing where it goes. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and once again, glad to see Shannon back. Please check out her channel. Yeah, she just put up the video earlier, so I think you'll enjoy it. So, to the next one. Peace, love, and joy.